My hair looked beautiful before I went outside, so I don't know what that looks like now. I hate to think.
Yeah, we just went outside with Rufus so he could have a biology break. I went to start the generator. It's been overcast 2 days now.
Yeah.
Hey friends, you're watching BrainStormAcres. I'm Henry.
And I'm Irene.
I'm going to go hide behind the camera because this is primarily going to be a Q&A for Irene. A lot of folks have asked questions about Irene and service dogs and all those general issues. So I'm going to start asking.
Off. Off the sofa, dude.
Come on.
Grab his leash or his collar, one of the two. Says, but Mom's just over there. I should just be able to jump over the sofa and come to her. What was that? Were we talking about bad habits? Well, help him stick his head on the table where he's not even supposed to be on the sofa. Yeah, I'm hearing impaired, and he lets me know what's going on in the world. I've had 2 previous service dogs, and this guy's obviously in training, but he's doing his best. I'm really cute, Mom. You shouldn't throw me off the sofa impersonation right now. I have no directional hearing. I wear 2 hearing aids, which gives me knowledge of some of the sounds that come from the left-hand side, but I still can't spot it. I've had probably mono hearing for most of my life, so that makes it sort of hard as an adult, a late adult, to adapt and figure out how to interpret sounds coming from another direction. Both of my previous service dogs were great at letting me know if there was something happening that was dangerous or that they didn't understand and therefore I needed to check it out. So, need to get him down. This is the biggest service dog we've had, and he is a totally lovely beast, but he has 0 manners, so we're working on that. He's not allowed on the sofa, which is where he's sitting right now, because he really wants to be next to me. So, yeah. Anyway, maybe he'll go back to killing that alligator I gave him. Anyway, yeah, so that's what they do. It's nice for me if I don't have a barker. My first service dog, Bruno, could be a little bit of a barker, but it took some time to convince him not to bark. He was a toy fox terrier, and they tend to be a little on the barky side. My second service dog, Jack, was a terrier mix, Jack Russell Terrier. He was not a barker. He was an abused dog when we got him, and we think he was probably beaten as a puppy anytime he barked. So as an adult, we did train him to talk to us. He would talk, you know, the way some dogs will go rah, rah, rah. And we actually taught him to bark. Like he played games with Henry. Henry would honk the horn and he would bark back at the car and stuff like that. But around the yard and stuff like that, if he barked, if you were, for instance, cooking dinner, you shut off the dinner and ran out to check what it was if he was outside by himself, because he did not bark casually. So the times he has barked that I recall, there was once where there was a snake in the yard. It was fortunately just a gopher snake, but that still meant that I needed to take the critters out of the yard and shoot the snake off. There was another time when there was a javelina outside the fence. Well, javelinas are very dangerous and can kill dogs. So that was a good warning, and we actually called one of our neighbors because when the javelina saw us and fled, he headed for the neighbor's place. Well, the next door neighbor has dogs and chickens and a garden, so that's a bad combination. The other time I remember him barking outside was there was a tarantula walking across the patio, and he didn't know what it was, so he wanted to let me know that there was something going on there. I just brought him in and told him he was a good boy and stuff like that. I just didn't want him to accidentally paw at the tarantula and kill it, because I figure anything that got that big eating bugs should continue to eat bugs. I discovered when I changed school districts. The initial school district that I went to did not do hearing tests. They only did vision tests. This was a long time ago. You know, you're lucky they did vision tests in those days. They only had so much energy for being proactive about whether the kids could see and hear. When we switched to a different school district, the school district automatically taught, checked all new students as they came in to make sure you could see and you could hear, and the answer was I couldn't hear. I did okay because my right ear is very good, or at least was in those days, and I could certainly get along in class and things like that. But yeah, that's when they figured out that I was essentially deaf on my left-hand side, and I did fine. I speak fairly well. I don't miss many sounds. I was able to learn foreign languages as well as English, and I can speak Southern as well as New England, that sort of thing, even if I throw in a little Texan when I have to. But as you get older and you start losing your hearing naturally through all the abuses that we engage in as in our youth, like concerts and things like that, it becomes more of an issue, and it got to the point where I really needed a little bit of help. And that's when we actually had a dog that had, without me really thinking about it, adapted himself to my needs and had started automatically alerting and stuff like that. Terriers are incredibly intelligent, which is why I generally prefer terriers as dogs. Very trainable, willful as heck, but if you can figure out what floats their boat, you can get them to do just about anything. Jack was a terrier, Bruno was a terrier before him. This goober, Rufous, is a terrier mix of some sort. We can't tell, like I don't know if he's all Wheaten or terrier or if he's Wheaten and something else, but he'll be into the vet next week to see, and I'll probably have a DNA done on him just to figure it out. Give me some clues as to what his likely health prognosis will be. But right now he's a big lovable lunk who just had to have his feet wiped off because he charged around the yard, and temporarily everything melted this afternoon for just a little bit, which means he came in really muddy. And as he started to run across the kitchen floor, and I went, "Oh, look, dog prints," I called for Henry to get me a rag and get his toes cleaned up. So that's where we are right now, is trying to teach this boy some manners. Like one of the manners will be get out of mom's chair when she gets back. He's doing okay. I mean, he came from a rescue. It sounds like that was his second rescue. He was in probably a kill shelter in Texas, in El Paso, and he was pulled from there by a foster person who kept him for a little while. Him and his two siblings for a little while. I don't know how long. We've been waiting for the shot records to come in from them, and I've got to whack them on the head again on Monday if I don't hear from them today, because I would like to have the shot records when I go to the vet. Otherwise, I have to assume he's had nothing and he has to start from scratch again, which is a pain. They told me that all he needed was his rabies, but unless I've got the shot records, I'm just guessing at it, and these things are too important to guess at, because I need to be able to take him out in public. I know he's had his Bordetella. That's not a biggie. But my guess, because he's not fixed either, and he's supposed to be. In fact, that's part of the adoption agreement, is I have to fix him. My guess is that the rescue is underfunded, and that's why they didn't do some of the things that most rescues would do. In fact, a couple of my friends were sort of shocked that he hadn't been fixed and gotten all his vaccines. I was not thrilled, but sometimes we've been through... It's been a fascinating study in people and dog interaction when we went to go rescue a new dog. There's thousands and thousands of dogs out there that need a new home, and they always encourage you to rescue rather than buy from a breeder. And I agree with that completely, because there's a lot of really good dogs out there, and sometimes you can get even purebred dogs that have been dumped. Well, he'll be a hearing dog. He will let me know if he's very sensitive to sound. We noticed that right away. When we picked him up, we checked his ears to make sure that they weren't yucky, because he's got floppy ears, and we've had floppy-eared dogs before that had chronic ear infections that were hard to clear. Living in a drier climate, that will help, but still, if he starts out with one coming from Texas or something, we could have a hard time clearing it. He is sound sensitive, so if Henry's doing something down at the other end of the house, his head will be up and he'll be listening to figure out what's going on. He's very curious about things. He wants to know everything and to sniff everything. And sometimes to lick everything. When he is trained up completely, he will be there to let me know what's going on, basically, that I just don't know what's happening and what direction it comes from, because I will hear a sound sometimes, but I don't know where it came from. And I've got to try and localize that sound to figure out where it came from. Well, his head will come up instantly and he'll look at the direction. So it doesn't take really any training to accomplish that. You just need a dog that's naturally alert and curious. I will also, he has to learn to walk on a leash better than he does right now. He was obviously not accustomed to a collar or a leash when we picked him up. He's doing way better already. But he needs to be able to walk, because what I figured out for both my previous dogs is just the action of his head moving and his body moving, turning towards a person or something else that's coming, I'm sensitive to the motion of the leash. So I will pick up the sensations through the leash to let me know that something's going on. Bruno would give one bark, like if he didn't think I knew a person had walked into the shop, he would give one bark, just one bark, to let me know that somebody had come in. Jack didn't do that, but I usually was sitting in a position where I could see Jack, and I would see the motion of him picking his head up, and that's all I needed to know, that there was something going on that I needed to pay attention to. Absolutely none. The misnomer that you have to have some sort of certification is pure TBS. Not in the United States. I don't know the rules and regs for other countries. The big thing is that there has been a lot of abuse of the concept of having a service dog in the United States, and a lot of people basically who want to bring their little Fifi poodle that's totally out of control to the grocery store so that they don't get in trouble for leaving it in the car, because in Arizona you cannot leave a dog in the car during the summer without getting your behind arrested, because people kill dogs and children all the time by leaving them in cars. And if it's 104 degrees outside, it'll be 140 in your car within minutes, and you can kill a dog. So, but there is no requirement, none, zero, for training a service dog. And I actually know a stack of people who use service dogs, because we attend a couple of events that only allow service dogs. So you won't have, somebody bringing their ordinary dog there. And those dogs are generally, I know one or two that were quote unquote, professionally trained. But most of them were trained by the person who uses them. The ones that are usually professionally trained are specialty dogs. So something like seeing eye dog is usually professionally trained. Dogs that are alerting for seizures and diabetes and things like that are usually professionally trained, because those are sniffer dogs. So they're taught to sniff the same way as a drug-smelling dog would be. As for certification, there is no requirement. Some jurisdictions will try and say, well, you should have what they call a good citizenship test for your dog. The federal rule says your dog has to be in control at all times, and if your dog is not in control, then it can't be there. I don't care if it's a legitimate service dog or not, but your dog has to be able to function in public too. So around the house, once he's fully used to us here, he will not be on a leash. We're working on that right now in the house. We might have a leash on him, but he's not attached to us that much. We're still using it to control him a little bit, but once things are really, the training is really set with him, he will not be on a leash in the house. He will not be on a leash in the yard. I could take Jack down to the studio without a leash, but it'll be a while, because that's outside the gate, outside the safe fence area. I will have him on a leash for a good long time before I would consider just walking him anywhere. He doesn't appear to be a runner. Jack was a little bit of a runner. He already has his GPS collar on, so if he does decide to take a walk farther than we want him to, we'll know where he is. It's a matter of making him functional both at home, which is, to be blunt, where we spend most of our time. We don't go out to dinner very often. We don't go out, we go errands maybe once or twice a week. Henry tends to run the short ones, like to the post office and stuff like that. I might go out once a week to go shopping and stuff like that. But if he's coming with me, he needs to function completely. But we've been working with him here to see what bothers him. Like he's not afraid of feet. He's not afraid of boots. He's not afraid of brooms. Because especially when you're dealing with an older, slightly older, because he's not old, he's only between a year and two, we think. When you're dealing with a used dog, a rescue, sometimes they've been abused. Jack had been kicked, it was obvious. He was afraid of men, he was afraid of boots, he was afraid of motorcycles. I mean, you kind of get the picture when you start talking about the things he was afraid of. And we managed to overcome that with training. you're never going to remove it, but it's, you know, what we're doing now, right now, is figuring out what bothers him, what scares him, what was his response. He saw his first snow, was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. And his response, I took him out the first thing in the morning, his response was he stopped and he looked at it, and because the ground is completely white, we had about an inch of snow at that point, and he sniffed the ground, and then he said, oh, okay, and kept going. So he wasn't freaked out by it. He noticed it, assessed whether it was dangerous or not, and went on with it. That's really good. A dog that is terribly fearful can be kind of semi-useless. And one of the things, and can become a danger because they can be frightened, and a frightened dog is always a slightly dangerous dog. You know, now Jack did not get fierce when he got frightened, but some dogs do. And it's a natural response. I mean, you know, it's no different when you scare the heck out of a person. Sometimes they're ready to whack you with something, because that's a natural survival sort of a technique. Well, the first thing we will do is, starting next week when he goes to the vet, I need to go pick up a prescription, which reminds me I need to call that in, from my physician, and there's an elevator in the building there. It's just a small elevator that goes up and down a couple of floors there, but since it's a medical building, they need to have elevators so that if you were in a wheelchair or a walker or something, you can get up to the second floor. I'm going to take him up and down the elevator several times while I'm there, because it's a low traffic area, so I'm not going to be in the way. So he gets used to the idea of an elevator, because if you're going to stay in hotels and things like that, he has to be able to go up and down an elevator. You do not want to have to walk up and down the stairs with him for 4 stories if they put you on the 4th floor. So there'll be that sort of thing. We will take him to some local events, relatively local, you know, within an hour or so drive, where he'll be in with people that are making noise and not paying attention, and, you know, because some dogs freak out if their toes get stepped on. You don't want that. If there's martial arts going on, there's a lot of clanging and clattering, because, you know, you're hitting a metal shield with a stick of wood, and it makes a big whack. It makes a thwack sound. Jack did not like that, but he got used to it after a little bit. So it's taking him to things like that, making sure he's in a crowd where he's in between feet and skirts and boots and things like that, and can deal with that. Taking him to grocery stores, taking him to, you know, but doing it in a fashion, take him to the outside things first, so that if he freaks out, you can easily take him out. Or have a situation where Henry and I are both there, so that if he starts to get too scared in a situation, Henry can take him out to the car, and I can finish the grocery shopping or whatever. There was a whole flock of crows in the yard, and we got lots of caw, 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 and birds flying in all directions. He was like, dude, this is cool. But he didn't freak out about it. He was just like, wow. He just stops. He's a pretty mellow personality. He tends to stop and assess the situation, which is great. It's great. He thinks about it before he freaks out, which is just exactly what we want. So far we're really pleased with his progress. He was a jumper when we got him. You know, we've had him.
This is the 3rd day.
Yeah, so, well, we only picked him up about lunchtime the first day. So this is 2.5, not quite 2.5 days. 90% of the times, if he really can't contain himself now, he will come up in the air, but he won't put his feet on you. So he's standing on his hind legs like this, because he knows that he'll be told off if he puts his feet on you. But he's allowed to get excited. He's just not allowed to bounce on you when he does it, because he's a little heavy. I'll probably be able to give him a boost with a harness. I'm guessing he's close to 50 pounds. He might be 40, and I just need to lift a few weights, but he is a lot heavier. He's a lot bigger, and I actually think he's underweight. He is very enthusiastic about food. He's one of those dogs that inhales their food, and I'll be talking to the vet about whether he recommends I use one of those bowls to calm down the food process. But we're feeding him multiple times a day to solve that problem too. So if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to ask. We're obviously up to our armpits in alligators right now, doing all kinds of things. We're watching it snow outside. We're supposed to get another, oh, it depends on who you listen to. I'm seeing 6 to 12 inches. Now, we were supposed to get a couple of inches last night. Didn't happen. That's okay. But this is a new storm. The last one was Olive. This one is Piper. So we'll see what Piper does in the long run. So lots going on. I'm not getting a lot done in the studio right this second. I have to get back out there tomorrow. But right now it's so darn cold that the only reason I'm going outside is if the dog has to go to the bathroom. So until next time, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell because obviously lots going on. So bye. Oh, and keep on brainstorming because obviously we are.